And now we should be live very soon. Yes, it gives me live. Yes, I'll confirm here.
And
yes, here we are. So welcome everybody. We are here tonight with Glenn Valentin. I'm doing it the French way because I heard it also in the English way, Valentine. So choose the one that you prefer. And Glenn is an amazing guy who has just finished an incredible world record. He traveled the longest distance in 24 hours on a space hopper, which is one of those balloons that you jump on. It has two handles, and that's, I think it's an amazing feat. The world record is still to be ratified, but it's underway. And if I'm correct, before that you climbed a mountain road on one of those things. Is it right?
Yeah, exactly. Last year, I climbed the most famous mountain pass in the Pyrenees, which is the Col de Tourmalet. I live in the Pyrenees, so it's like the Tourmalet is really a monument from the Tour de France, and I climbed it on a space hopper, which was, I think it was 1,400 meters of altitude gain.
Wow. So just for my curiosity, because I'm not very used to space hoppers, I guess last time I was on one, it was probably 20 or more years ago. So what makes it tricky to go a long wave on a space hopper, beside probably being awfully slow?
Yeah, what you wouldn't expect is that probably the hardest is for the hands. Because if you sweat a lot, you lose grip, and you start having blisters on your fingers. So that was during training that was the hardest part. But by the time I did my world records, my hands were adapted. And then the day itself, the head was the most difficult part. Mental strength.
As usual. But hey, I think that's a very interesting thing. But the most interesting thing for me is that you just finished a book, and to write a book, and this book is called "We Could Be Heroes," which I think it's a song from David Bowie, right?
Yeah.
It's part of a song, and this book is amazing because you interviewed 100 adventurers of different type of adventures, and asking them which type of questions. What was the main questions that you asked them?
Yeah. Well, before I answer you, actually, now I'm thinking about it. It's thanks to you that I found the title, Fabio, because I did your social dreaming program.
Okay.
And one night I went to bed with the idea I want to find the title for my book, and I dreamed something heroes, 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 and then that morning I jumped on my bike and I was like 2 minutes on my bike, and in my head it was we could be heroes. So and then it was very clear.
Wow, that's a really good point for dreams, especially. Yeah, sometimes in dreams they help us solve problems, especially the type of creative problems.
Yeah, indeed.
Yes, but how this book was born? What was the idea behind your book?
I wasn't really feeling super good in my job as a physiotherapist. I was mostly missing a creative output and missing freedom. So then I asked myself the question, what if I really could choose a job, what job would it be, or what career would it be? And the answer that came up was adventurer. But there's no university where you can go to become an adventurer. So I said to myself, I better ask advice, and why not write a book at the same time? And then I came up with the idea to interview 100 professional adventurers.
Yeah, and what type of questions did you ask them? What were you after? What was your idea? I guess it was for you to learn from them, but what did you want to learn especially?
Yeah, a lot. Um, Very practical things as physical and mental preparation, how to find sponsorship, how to market yourself, and then also more deeper subjects I touched on, like why are you doing what you're doing, and what is the impact you want to have on people. So it was really a broad scope of questions I asked them about lifestyle, mindsets, life philosophy, and then very specific tactics. Yeah.
Yes, and there's an interesting fact, and I will reveal the reason why we are here today. Is Glenn just launched this book and is offering a bundle offer. So if I'm correct, if 7 people book the book, it will cost as 5 people buy. So there's a good discount, and I'm interested in that discount. So I was really uh, thinking that maybe we can ask our networks to get together and find these 7 people that want to buy Glenn's book, and then we can all pay it less. So that will be good for me and for everybody. So if you're interested in this, feel free to contact me, and we can make a team and get it together. And yeah, so about this book, it's currently available. You can order. There's a website, correct?
Yeah, so it's not available for ordering, but it's available for pre-ordering. So it's actually a crowdfunding campaign now, and the more people pre-order, the bigger the chance that I will get linked to a very good editor, a very good publishing house.
Yes, that's important, because if you have a lot of interest from the people, and the way to get interest is to get the word out, and and that's why we are here. I think I always wanted to, not always, but lately I wanted to start a podcast that's more that's talking more about sailing and adventure and psychology. And I think that was also a good way to start, because there's so many things that connect sailing, adventure, um, and psychology. And as probably some of you know, I'm a psychologist, and I used to do this in Italy before I changed my life, and I went to Venezuela first, and then I started travel and sailing all over the places for 12 years. But the psychology is still alive, and I still work with people, and help them in hard time, also to figure out reinvention and things in life. So I had an idea of maybe start to talk about these topics here. And funny enough, on my boat, because I live on a boat, there's an helicopter passing by, so you might hear it now. But yeah, that's what I want to ask Glenn, especially because about sailing. How were the sailors the interview? Because for what I understood, you interview different type of adventurers, from climbers, long distance runners, and rowers, but also sailors. And how were the sailors different, or what did they say that was interesting for you?
Yeah. Um, so indeed, I interviewed 100 adventurers from all kinds of backgrounds, and I have about 5 or 6 people who did adventures on a sailboat, from which 3 people are there's 2 people and 1 couple actually who have sailing really as their main discipline of adventure. One one is a couple, a French couple, and they travel around the world um, in order to sensibilize people to take care of the climate. So they invite 100 professional athletes, outdoor athletes, on their boat, and they travel all over the world. So not 100 at the same time, but each time 3 or 4 athletes on the boat. And then they go skiing, or they go parasailing, or they go rock climbing in the most remote areas around the world. And then actually they make films about it to show the people on the big movie screen how beautiful our earth is, and that we really have to protect it. And they also go to schools to educate children about the environment. So this French couple, they really um, have sailing as a means to bring forward a message, a very important message. And the second person is Sarah Hastrater, difficult name to pronounce. She's a mountaineer and sailor, and she's actually on her way to become the first woman to have sailed the 7 seas and climbed the 7 summits. I think she just has to climb 3 more mountains, and then she will achieve this big accomplishment. And Sarah, she's a real type A person, so she's probably one of the most motivated um, real athletes of my book. So she's really very narrowly focused on her sport. And Sarah, she said that the sailing and mountaineering is completely different actually, because mountaineering, you can consider it as a sport and you can train very specifically your muscles in the gym, and then specific trainings in the mountains. But sailing, she says, it's a lifestyle, and it's a you're part of a sailing tribe. Um, and once you're a sailor and you want to live as a sailor, it's takes over whole your life, whole your world. And yeah, as you probably know, Fabio, as a sailor, you can say that day I'm gonna do so many kilometers on the ocean, and that day I'm gonna do so many kilometers on the ocean. It depends a lot on external factors. So that's difference between sailing and mountaineering. And then the third person is very interesting. It's Alex Ali. And Alex, he is a competitive sailor, very high level. He has broken several world records. And in 2019, he tried to break the Guinness World Record for the fastest tour around the world on a sailboat. He didn't manage because he had something broken on his boat halfway. But what was very interesting from Alex's story was that he raised more than 300,000 euros for this trip by crowdfunding. And the way it happened was that people could buy a picture of themselves on the boat. So everyone who paid 30 euros got their picture on the boat. And this way he got 10,000 people or something like that on his boat.
Wow, was that before leaving the harbor?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow, I should have done it in my Atlantic crossing. That's a good idea. I had a few people, at least few friends I could have 100 euros or so, but that are always helpful in a low budget sailing as I did last year. But that's impressive. Yeah, I can confirm what Sarah told you,
We're
because
having a poor connection, Fabio.
oh, you cannot hear me. I have everything.
Yeah.
good
It's
from
okay.
this side. Yeah, as I was saying, I agree with what Sarah said. Like, is different to it's different when you are a sailor. In a way, there's a community and there's a lifestyle that's always there. And so for example, right now that I'm a little bit divesting from sailing, it is somehow difficult. And so the it's like a total career. Can you hear me okay? I think you froze a little bit.
Yeah, I lost you for 30 seconds or something.
Okay, you're back. Anyway, as we were saying, like, it's interesting how sailing is considered a lifestyle, and I can testify for that, because it takes everything from you. I'm sure many other um, adventurers had to fully commit to the type of adventure they choose, but there's when it comes to, as you say, to variables, sailing has so many variables that it takes your entire life, and so you never know
Mm,
how it's gonna go in the end.
yeah. Okay, Fabio, I'm actually curious about your 12 years on the ocean because I don't know you that well yet. So please tell a bit of yours most special moments on the boat during those 12 years, or maybe start globally by saying what you have done during those 12 years.
Well, I was thanks for the question. I was thinking about it lately, and I realized how many things I did and how interesting and exciting it was all. But if I have to find some highlights, I have to say that I fell in love with boats when I went to Venezuela on a vacation trip, and a friend of mine, he had a boat there because he bought it for starting a business, and so we all went to make the maiden trip of the boat. And later on, one year, without very much knowing it, I was on that boat working, and so this was unexpected. I've never sailed before. I'm a mountain guy because I grew up closer to the Alps than the
Mm,
ocean. And after that, it became a lifestyle, in the sense that when you're on a boat, even if you're particularly in love with the sailing aspect, then all of the sudden, all the maintenance, all the parts of the boat, it all becomes part of you, and so you
mm,
are trapped in this world where you need to fix an engine, you need to sail the boat without an engine to the place where you're gonna put the engine on,
mm,
and so on. The tasks were becoming more and more difficult and different, and in the end you find yourself in this adventurous lifestyle where nothing goes according to the plan, but that's okay. That's the lifestyle. And
yeah.
so,
So you're saying it was kind of a trap, but do you think it's the lifestyle of a sailor? It gives you anyhow more freedom than the typical lifestyle of people living in a house and going to a normal job and I don't know, maybe having a family.
well, sailing is compatible with having a family. I have many friends who live on their boats and sail, and they have kids, and so I will say the biggest difference is that sailing puts you in contact with the elements all the time, and so you become somehow slave of your boat, because your life depends on your boat, and your survival depends on your boat. And so
Mhm.
if you if
Does
you're
that
short
does
on,
that come with a sense of fear?
does it come, sorry?
With a sense of fear because your
Well,
life depends on the boat.
fear is part of the process, but fear is always very quick to come and go. Like if you see a storm and you're caught in a storm, you have a moment where you see it coming, and then you get scared, but then very quickly you have to work to fix it, and to prepare for the storm. And so it's like the animal thing, like animal gets scared, um, and then they act, and then in this way the fear gets dissolved. But in a way, there is sailing, you accept that you can control the plan only this much, and then you learn from experience, because you for example, my plan was to go and sail in the Chilean fjords, and then it didn't happen, and I was okay with that in the end. Maybe it's going to happen later, I still have to replan it. But
because of
then
COVID.
no, that was just because my past relationship fell apart, and simply it wasn't meant to be with this boat in that time. And but then I did some other sailing. I sailed across the Atlantic, and now I'm in Tenerife, and more things will come. And so you learn how to change plan and not to be attached to a plan. While when you live, in a city or on land, you tend to have longer term plans, and you stick to them, and in a way, you lose the freedom because of the plan. But in a way, it's the same, is that sailors have like just shorter and more unstable planes than people on land. And so somehow they acquire a little more freedom to learning that things are gonna go okay, and they're gonna find a way to fix things and make it work because they did it in the past. Otherwise, they will not be where they are. So I think that's the biggest lesson I learned so far with sailing, that's concerned with freedom.
Okay. And a question that comes to my mind is, you're together with Sarah now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh no, Sarah is she went running, but yes, I am.
Okay. How did you get to meet her? Is she a mermaid?
No, she's not a mermaid. We met on an island, but I didn't have a boat at the time because I just sold that boat, and I was just didn't know exactly what to do with my life, and I was preparing to leave Venezuela. That was about 10 years ago, and I met her. She was there for working, and we've been together a month, and then we both left, and we say, it was a good time, and see you later. And then each of us took different roads and had a life. And 10 years later, she asked me, I'm gonna go to Costa Rica, do you wanna come and join for a holiday? And the first answer was, of course, no, I don't have any money, I don't have time, it's I have to find a job, maybe I'm gonna go work in Hong Kong, maybe not, what I'm gonna do with my life. And then I went to sleep, and exactly at 3 a.m. I wake up, and I couldn't sleep anymore, and I ended up booking the flight to Costa Rica. And so since then, I also learned, I'm kind of, because I'm Italian, the cultural trait is to be a little pessimist about the future, or a little bit critic about the future. So I grew up as a no person. I'm sorry if some Italian take it personally. Of course, not all of the Italians are like that, but the general culture is like that. And so that way is, I say like, oh, maybe I just have to say yes. And even if it's, like complicated and difficult, then later things are going to go well. And I definitely didn't regret the decision 2 years later. So That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Did you find that other in the adventurers you interviewed, that people had this kind of positive attitude that they're gonna be able to overcome troubles, or I don't know if that's, sometimes I think is a cultural um, mindset. Some people are very much planners, and they plan everything to the specific detail, and they stick to the plan religiously. And then other
Yeah.
people are more problem solver, and they kind of improvise.
Yeah, good question. I think there's a very broad range of people in my book. Some people going very much towards the planning side. I would say, especially the ultra runners, and then people who take it really day by day, um, like the sellers, for example. And actually, I've been thinking about, well, while you were asking the question, I was thinking about Hillary Nelson. She's one of the most accomplished ski mountaineers in the world. She's also the head of the North Face team, and she says that as an adventurer or as a mountaineer, for very specifically, you also need to have both. You have to have very much discipline to be able to follow a plan, but at the same time you can be too rigid in your thoughts, so you have to be flexible at the same time, especially in the mountains where things can change very rapidly.
Yes, and what type are you? What's your style when it
Yeah,
comes
my
to
background is
your
triathlon,
adventure?
and as a triathlete I was very always following a training plan, so now I have to learn to surrender a bit more, to adapt to the circumstances. But I feel it's the process of more and more surrendering is a very interesting process, also not only as an athlete but also just as a person.
Eh, Could that be that's the difference between sport and adventure?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, we should ask Polarity.
maybe we should ask her. Glenn and I are part of a network on Facebook about adventure psychology. That's how we met, actually.
Yeah,
And it's an interesting group, and we also um, they always ask interesting questions, and there's interesting discussion going on, and so maybe that's easy to planning. You can plan and you can train for sports, but when you have to train for adventure, there is something else you have to bring.
yeah. I also think that as an adventurer, I think you need a bit more courage than as an athlete. Being an athlete is mostly based on discipline, and of course a bit courage too. But as an adventurer, you really need to have a whole lot more courage than the general athlete.
Yeah, what is courage for you?
Facing your fears, simply.
Yeah, I once had an interesting interview with a sailor. Um, his name is Webb Childs. He did very amazing feats on a sailboat. He sailed on an open deck boat. He almost circumnavigated. He didn't finish, but it was an 18-foot um, sailboat, and he did many other adventures. And he said that he doesn't think he's courageous. He doesn't think he's brave. What he thinks is that he has nerve, and so that when something needs to be done, because it depends on your life, or also the accomplishment on what you set for, you're 100% ready to do it. And so when there's a storm coming, you're ready to face it. it goes like it goes. But and that's for him is different than being brave. That's it's in English he says it's more appropriate to say having nerve, which is don't lose the nerves when you more need them, I
Okay,
guess.
that's an interesting point. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess that's probably achieved by exposure, because the more you face danger and difficult situation, the more you see the response that you're having, and
Yeah.
you can get accustomed to. Of course, if you never sail, then you go sailing across an ocean for the first time, you're up for a very strong learning curve, even though it's amazing. There's many people that don't know anything about sailing, and they pick it up very quickly, and they just learning and do it because it's
I want
technically
to
not
this question.
difficult.
Like if I want to start today, I have no background in sailing, and I would be able to be on, yeah, to be with you, let's say, um, for how many months or how many weeks would I have to live together with you in order to be able to sail the Atlantic Ocean by myself, or how many years?
Well, I think that to sail by yourself, of course you have to learn to sail with somebody else, because and actually having a good teacher is good, because you're gonna learn good sailing. But then what you're up to, if you want to sail by yourself an ocean, you have to actually sail by yourself. So and that's in my case was like I've done sailing by myself before, but always for very short periods, distances. So I didn't have trouble to man a boat by myself, but I never did it. And when it was the first opportunity was when I have to take the boat and my cat back from Panama to the US, which is on my boat was a 17-day journey. And and my boat is set up so I can sail it by myself. That was the idea, because even when you are two people, one person has to sleep and the other person has to be able to do everything without waking the other person up. And so the so when I did that, when I sailed 17 days by myself, I learned that I could sail any amount of days by myself. Of course, the preparation will be different, the amount of food, and it all changed depending on the type of sailing, the clothing, but the basic was there. So if you want to sail by yourself, you have to practice sailing by yourself.
And how does the sleeping part happen if you sail by yourself? Like when do you
Sorry?
sleep and do you put out, how do you
I,
sleep if you're sailing by yourself? Do you put out an anchor or how does it happen?
no, the boat has autopilot, and the boat keeps the course. And so and also the sails are trimmed, and unless the wind change, you don't have to do anything. So basically in long oceanic sailing, the conditions are usually fairly stable. So you may have a change in wind, but then you have, I don't know, 2 days, even weeks of the same wind direction. And so there's very little you have to do. But the most important thing is to keeping watch. So knowing that you are on course, that you're not hitting anything, and that the boat is behaving well. So it's not breaking down. The sails are doing what they're supposed to do. And so what I do is I usually sleep for half an hour, and then I set an alarm, and I wake up and I do a very quick check on deck, and see if there's other boats. Then you also have the electronics, but the electronics are there only if somebody is looking at them. So you still have to do this thing and waking up regularly, and also there's moments when maybe the direction of the waves or the direction of the wind change, and even if you're sleeping, you hear it because the sound on the boat change all of a sudden. The movement of the boat change, and so then you realize something changed, and you wake up and you check what happened. And so there's many ways to do that.
And like, if you are sleeping in your sailboat and there's another guy sleeping in his sailboat, and you're gonna crash to, is there something of electronics which detects the another boat so that you don't collapse?
Yes, you have two choices. You have a thing called AIS, which basically is a tool that sends a radio message, and then you have the same thing on the other sailboat, hopefully. And so they're talking to each other, and you have an alarm going off. And also you have the classic, the radar, which is more passive in the sense that the radar senses obstacles, and also gives you an alarm if something enters a certain range that you decide. But again, like sometimes radar fails in the sense that too small of an object is not picked up from the radar. Not all the people have AIS on board, and if they have, maybe it's not working if they have a technical problem. And same could be for you. And so it's becoming increasingly safer, but you still need to check. And also the 30 minutes or 20 minutes, it really depends on the speed of the vessel, is intervals, is that when you see, depending where you are, but you see 3 to 5 miles, actually less, I guess it's 2 to 3 miles on the horizon when you're sailing. And so if you see a boat, and actually the lights at night can go as far as 2-3 nautical miles, depending how high they are. So that's 30 minutes at 5-6 knots, which is a sailboat speed of an average small crappy sailboat like mine, is how much it takes. If you're going 5 knots, you're doing 2.5 miles in half an hour. And so if there's something on the horizon. Of course, if this thing is coming your way, the maths get complicated much faster. But this is a reasonably safe thing to, and there's come a point you will never know, but in the very middle of the ocean you rarely see anything. And when you see, it scares you because it's usually small enough that you would not ever seen it, even if you were awake. And when you see it, is kind of too late. Like one time I was crossing to Dominican Republic and I saw a big fridge floating. And I didn't hit it, but I could not have seen it.
Yeah. But you never had a severe accident, no?
No, nothing break, nothing. I hit the ground many times on different boats, but that's part of the thing. And it's usually the reason why is because there's more danger near the coast than up in the ocean. Of course, in the middle of the ocean, the problem is the rescue. Getting somebody to rescue will take a very long time, and the chances that they find you are very slim. But there's also less danger in the sense that there's less things to eat. And if you fall asleep and you're by the coast, if you fall asleep in the middle of the ocean and you don't wake up, you're lucky and nothing happens. But if you do it close to land, very likely gonna run aground or do something worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. To the people watching, I'm want to remind I'm here with Glenn Valentin. Is an author of the book We Could Be Heroes, where I interview 100 people, adventurers, asking them many questions about their secrets, because he wanted to learn about how to be an adventurer. And if you want to pre-order the book, there's a bundle that I want to be joined with. So send me a message or anything. We can bend up. For 7 books, we can pay 5 books. So there's a huge discount. And how much is a book?
Book is $25, which is 21 euros, something like that. So there's indeed a bundle bonus where you have, I think it's about 28% discount if you buy with 7 people together. And on top of that, there's also a trip you can win to the Pyrenees, where I live. So a 1-week trip in where you will stay in an apartment really at the foot of the Pyrenees, which includes paragliding, which includes a hut-to-hut trek, and also canyoning.
Will
So
you be the guide?
What did you say, Fabio?
Will you be the guide?
Yeah, me and my friends are, and also professional guys. Like for paragliding and canyoning, it will be with a professional. Yeah.
Wonderful. Maybe I will win it. We'll never know, but that will be suspicious. So, but the more people, the more people buy the book, the less chances I have to win it. So anyway, I invite everybody to send me a message who is interested in the book. We can get together and get the discount for the book.
Yeah, I give away 1 trip for every 100 pre-orders. So if I have 300 pre-orders, then I give away 3 trips. You see.
Very good. Yes. Well, it was a pleasure to talk with you. I learned so much, and I ended up being interviewed, which was also amazing. Thank you. Your questions were very interesting. And if you ever made it to Tenerife, we can go sailing first. 2 people. Then if you ever want to be a solo sailor, then you have to log your time alone. But it's interesting that you're thinking that. Have you ever sailed before?
No, I never did.
Is it something that interests you?
Yeah. Even it didn't interest me at all when I started my book, but by hearing the stories of the adventurers, yeah, I'm very interested.
Yeah, I will tell you a story that's at least that's how it happened to me. Because I grew up near the Alps, I was more attracted to mountains or hiking and climbing, because are kind of, fairly reasonably cheap activity, because it depends on your ability to put yourself up there. And then I always thought that sailing was just for like rich people and snob people also, which is the stereotype that goes all over the world, especially where I'm from. I guess France is a little different, because France has more of a sailing culture. But then of course I started sailing. I bought my own boat and fixed it, and it's not cheap because it's extremely expensive, but I've seen many people do it on a very low budget, including myself. So it's definitely reachable.
Yeah. Well, just one more question I want to ask, because you talked about having a cat on your boat.
Yes, I used to have a cat. He went with my ex-wife because I was traveling too much at that time also. But the cat lived on the boat for 2 to 3 years.
Okay, cool. Well, I have a dog, and I was wondering if you can take a dog on a sailboat. Did you ever hear stories from sailors with a dog?
Yes, there's many people who have a dog on board, and of course, the size of the dog and the type of the dog gives you different challenges. But I've seen everything happens on the water, and if you don't believe it, it's happening. Like I've seen big dogs on small boats with people who had to row them ashore on a small rowing boat every day. And although it would not be my choice, I definitely saw people that, and
And
probably
how
because
do
love's,
they learn? Yeah,
yeah,
tell me.
probably because love breaks all the barriers. So, and people who love their animal, they can do anything for them. So, but what type of dog do you have?
I have a golden retriever.
Fairly big, I imagine.
Yeah, it's quite big. Do those people they teach their dog to poop in the water or in a dog toilet on the boat?
Well, I'm not a great expert, but what I see, they train them to do it in a particular spot on the deck of the boat. Sometimes they put those fake turf, fake grass,
Mhm.
kind of to help them identify the area, and then they hose it down or with a bucket if they don't have
Okay, I see.
pressurized water. But then when you are anchored close to land, when you are more cruising, you take them ashore
Mhm.
every morning, and as
Yeah.
you will
Oh,
do if you live in an apartment, you go out to a park
yeah, yeah.
and back. But that will be the, also because the dog probably wants to move, and the cat is more manageable in the sense that uh, he has his box on the boat and it doesn't really want to go go away.
Mm.
It's more like there.
Yeah, I see. I once went kayaking with my dog and he hated it. He didn't
uh,
like being sitting still.
well, you have to accustom it. But yeah, thank
Yeah.
you very much. I think we will share this with many people. Hopefully, people find it interesting, and we will be in touch. I will definitely buy the book. I hope to buy it with 6 other people, but
Yeah.
I'll wait for these people to materialize.
Okay. They have to decide quick though. It's my last week of the crowdfunding campaign.
Last week, better,
Yeah.
so we can put pressure on them. So
Yeah.
if you're watching, contact me. I want to find 6 of you will buy the book, and we're gonna get the discount, and maybe we can win the trip to the Pyrenees, which is also a
Yeah.
big bonus.
Yeah.
So I, I will look for them. But thanks again, Glenn. We
You,
will be
Fabio.
in touch, and I'll see you soon.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
Yeah,
Thank
have
you
a
very
great
much.
day.